What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 10X Recruiting, brought to you by Metaview. Sile, where in the world are you today?
Home sweet home, London.
I like it. All right. So, Sile, today we have continued our streak of talking to legends. We talked to Rhys Hughes, who is currently the executive talent partner at GV. You may have heard of them. And then prior was chief talent officer at Rubrik and head of talent at Adobe. So he's done a few things. What were your takeaways from this episode?
Yeah, biggest overall sort of theme, or something that I think Rhys exudes. So Rhys is, we work with GV, they invested in Metaview, and getting to know Rhys pretty well at this point. Such a relationships person. And I just think it's not it can't be the only thing that matters at every level of recruiting, but I think definitely increasingly it's something I'm really buying into more and more is the advantages you get, the reduce on drag you get as you sort of progress a company or sort of moving, up as a company when you have relationships sort of pre-existing as opposed to trying to strum them up urgently when you need them is just so valuable. And he just everything about him exudes that, and definitely he's had an influence on me just personally over the last few months on that front. So I think that's probably almost the underlying thing. The other thing that I really like, which is sort of funny coming from a consumer sort of relationship driven recruiter, is almost his sort of thinking around hiring being the last resort on things, hiring something new being the last resort, which I think is, again, super refreshing, frankly. Love the idea of really working out how to value the talent you already have within your midst appropriately, including the fact that they have a ton of proprietary knowledge, which if you're a great company should be really valuable. But I think, having the conviction and the sort of the confidence in the training that folks have had within your midst is really valuable and puts them in pole position for that new stretch role was a big takeaway as well.
That was my favorite one too, candidly, because I'm biased. And that was what happened in my career is people took bets on me. But also, I've seen the other side to where founders think an external hire is going to be the silver bullet. And it turns out everybody's got trade-offs. Everybody's got strengths and weaknesses. And one of the things you can't shortcut in a company is understanding the context and the relationships in the company to get shit done, to figure out what landmine to avoid, which one you should step on and you're going to be fine. All those things. I love that takeaway from Rhys. The other one from me is the metric everyone worships is trash. And so that's time to hire. We've had this discussion a couple times on the pod, but I thought Rhys really nailed it. The problem with time to hire is it focuses on speed. It does not focus on quality. And, Coinbase has obviously done a lot of this work with talent density and everyone's talking about it now, but still you don't see people really focusing on quality. And I believe there is a trade-off. Yes, we always want to go fast, but we should wait. And waiting is not necessarily a bad thing. So I loved his focus on look, ultimately, we're going to be measuring people on 12-month outcomes eventually. I don't think many companies are doing that today, but I think he's spot on. What do you think about that one, Sal?
Let me take the sort of situation internally at Metaview. I think it's inherent to us that of course we mean quality. And so that's why us focusing on time to fill does matter. What are the things we can do to increase the chances that we can find the quality of people that we need quickly is actually what we focus on, because quality is not even in the debate as something we're going to give on. But yes, if you go full send on time to fill and completely obsess over that and that's all that matters, and to totally forget that hiring someone that will help you win is if required, then of course it's foolish. Imagine you're in a world where the top candidates for a role are really clear. There is this sort of set of 10 candidates out there who are clearly world-class. Then obviously in that world, speed becomes speed of getting that person into your company, attracted to your company through the process, conviction on them, and then hiring them is the main variable, basically.
Even then though, you and I will disagree on this for a while, but even then, if you know the world of amazing candidates, it's not just all about speed, because you have to understand where the other person is. And sometimes that means operating with tact and feel. So sometimes people do want to move fast, but if you're moving faster than the candidate wants to move, you're the village idiot.
But then you won't fill it. I think that's captured in the metric.
Or it's going to take you 6 months because they're not ready.
Okay, actually, so you think about this differently to me. What you're saying is don't retrospectively look back and say, hey, you did a bad job because it took you 6 months to fill this role. If I got the right person, you should just be happy I got the right person. I totally agree with that. But what I'm saying is once you've identified that right person, you should be thinking about, as with any sort of competitive sport, frankly, that business is, how do I get them into my company as quickly as possible in a way that successfully gets them in, not in a way that scares them away, obviously. So yeah, I think maybe there's just two sides to it.
Absolutely agree. And actually Rhys and I covered that in the pod. So you guys will enjoy this. I hope you enjoyed this session of couples therapy brought to you by Nolan and Sile. And without further ado, here's my conversation with Rhys. This is 10X Recruiting, a podcast from Metaview. Let's get after it. All right, Rhys. So you are the talent partner at GV. What has been the journey like to get there? And especially like in this moment right now, as we were just talking about, what a wild time to be at that place.
I mean, unlike probably a lot of people, I saw the mobile and the internet, and now this one, and this one's different. Like, this is so fun. It's such a privilege to have a front row seat to this evolution that we're seeing. It's an incredible time, which I'm sure we'll get into. But look, I'm super thankful for my journey to this seat. It's been unplanned. I've never had a career plan. I've just followed incredible humans in my heart and done things that I've loved. I've always been maniacally obsessed with why people do what they do for a living. I guess I'll try and keep the long story short here, but I was a first generation Australian. My parents are both immigrants. I'm the son of small business owners. My mum owned a boutique store for 30 years. My dad, did a bunch of things, door-to-door salesman, through a bunch of other ventures before he sort of found his feet in a hydraulic engineering company. Did really well. So I think the entrepreneurial streak that they had, I was able to inherit a little bit. So like a lot of people, out of school, I fell into recruiting. I joined a large contingent IC agency at the time, right? And I was sold, hey man, you're going to have like cars and houses in a year. And, I was young and like 19 years of age. I'm like, I want all those things naively. It wasn't all those things, Nolan, at all. But I loved it. I loved the hustle. It was really transactional. Like, you had to do 20 calls a day. So I did 100. You had to do all these things. And I kind of learned how to do it. I also learned how not to do it. So a year later, the gentleman that actually hired me at that agency started his own firm and asked me to come join from the get-go, which I did. And that was a firm called Expand, and we went on a 10-year journey to speed this part of the story up, where we really emphasize the currency of relationships, which is I've had anchored in my career for the past 20 years, right? It's really, really important to me. And we started investing in, exclusive relationships with inbound vendors into the Asia Pacific region and serving their executive team builds and helping them scale and grow at a time when boutiques weren't really a thing as they were today. So just an incredible, if not exhausting, decade there. We ended up selling that company to a publicly listed company on the Australian Stock Exchange, which was incredible. Did all the things in the interim, got married, had some kids there, and then I promised my wife I was done with recruiting. But 3 months into thinking about what I was going to do next, the call came, and in 2008 I got a call from the then VP of talent there, a guy who I learned a ton off, who subsequently is a really good friend. But he had shared that they were going to go on this journey from, taking this business from perpetual desktop software through to subscription. And with a brand like Adobe and the humans that were involved, it was just too good an opportunity for me to say no to. And just, again, I'll make this 9 years really, really quick here. I spent 4 or 5 years in the region, building out the leadership team, getting the go-to-market motion in order. There wasn't one country there I probably didn't spend a lot of time on, from breaking ground for R&D centers and really helping a diverse set of countries to build the presence. And it was incredible. 5 years into that, I got the headquarter call. I sat on that decision for a little bit with family. I wanted to be sure. I thought I'd go to a couple of years in the US and do the headquarter job. So came here, took the head of talent job. Adobe completed that very special transformation, and I'm so privileged and proud that I got to be there with some incredible humans. Donna Morris, who I think the best chief people officer in the world now at Walmart. I got to be a part of her organization. I mentioned Jeff Ahunko, Matt Thompson, the CRO. I've really got a special place in my heart for go-to-market and execution. I learned that from Matt a ton. Unfortunately, Matt passed away, but Matt was a dear friend and an exceptional, I think, the OG sort of CRO. So really got to do some exceptional things there with the team there. Adobe holds a special place in my heart. And then, of course, being in Silicon Valley, you've got to do pre-IPO at least once, right? So
Of course.
I got a call from Rubrik, and Bipul Sinha over there is just an incredible recruiter, and was persistent and sort of sold me a story, which of course was true, that we're going to take this Series B company to IPO and really reinvent this category that they're in. And man, it was wild. It was like rebuilding the executive leadership team, the entire recruiting function, thinking about talent development, thinking about creating that category with an unbelievable set of humans. And it was hard. It was difficult. It was ambiguous. It was change every day. And I absolutely loved it. It was awesome. So, the things that I learned at Rubrik and at Adobe, they're the lessons that I get to go and share with founders today. And then lastly, venture. I had no plan to go into venture. Venture is a mysterious category. All venture is done differently at every firm. But again, like I've always done, the humans at GV were too incredible for me to not at least listen to. So first call I got was from Carta, who's legendary in design circles. And, Kate was just so impressive. And I made the mistake of taking another meeting. Middle our managing partners here, and each one was just as impressive as the next. And I have to say, this firm is lean. The headlines on GV is, we have a $10 billion AUM. We're multi-sector, multi-stage. We have 400 plus companies. And we get the privilege of obviously having Alphabet's capital, of which we're very, very respectful of, and get to go build these companies with great levels of patience. I was a horrible candidate, Nolan. I literally dragged them out for a year. I would have canceled me way early in the process, but
For a year?
I was literally dating GV for a year. It was a lot. So I'm so thankful, and which brings me to GV, and this has been the best decision I've ever made. I spend every single minute of my day with founders, and having an incredible time building some iconic companies here.
Yeah. So what does the day-to-day of a talent partner at GV look like? Because every talent partner seems to have a different mandate. So what's yours and what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, every single Monday morning when I look at my calendar for the week, I ask myself, is this meeting related to, adding velocity to founder ambition, or preparing a founder to hopefully be an iconic public company CEO? So, I'm so passionate about founder success. And by the way, so is every single person here at GV. We are a humble marketer by design. We really want the success of our founders to be the thing that moves us forward. And quite honestly, capital isn't enough. The work, in my opinion, should start there. So the work that there's a couple of big rocks. So the first big rocks is, how do we build relationship currency or network to give us an unfair share advantage of having them on speed dial to go help our founders grow? So I spend a ton of time curating those networks, going to where they need to be to demonstrate the commitment we have to that network. And then of course, triaging them into our portfolio to help our founders solve problems. Now, that exchange of value I take really quite seriously. If I'm earning the right to have a public company CEO or board member or a CXO on speed dial, and I get to call them once or twice a year, then the call there better be something in it for them in that value exchange, whether that's advisory or angel investing sometimes, or board work, or an operating role. I'm very, very careful that we're not wasting people's time, because these are busy humans, right? In a time when velocity is outrageous in the market. So the first one is how do we curate that network? How do we create those experiences and really earn the right to have the best operators and humans out there to connect with our portfolio? That's not just my role. Our investing team is really passionate about that network. I'm also a big believer in partners, Nolan. I really believe search gets a really hard time. I'm a big fan of search firms. So the search firms I work with know who they are, but those partners are a really important part of our team. They're also bearers of truth. They're also helping our founders grow. So I really, believe in that partnership. They're force multiplying our network. We have other partnerships like Banff Partners or David Bomber over there. I don't know if you know David, but David's been a tremendous impact into the people that we bring into our network. And also executive coaches who we really rely upon to go and help our founders as they go through their own, maturation in their businesses and become the founders that they also want to be. So rock number one is that curation of that network. The other piece is thinking deeply around how do we help these founders scale their companies. So I spend a ton of time, and quite honestly, I think this work might be more important. I think exec search and calibration and helping them make really thoughtful decisions as we teach them to become chief talent officers, and how to go fish. That's almost table stakes in what we do. I really think the getting in front of them, helping them think about future horizons, reverse engineering those, and thinking thoughtfully around the steps they need to be to get there, whether that's an ARR assumption or a headcount assumption or a series of raise function, whatever that is. We really want to help them think thoughtfully, because typically they're in the problem of the day and they're stuck there. So we really, I want to use my own scale experience to help them learn. And I actually think in this role, having operating experience gives you credibility with founders. I think you've got to see the movie a little bit, right? And I find myself sharing examples with founders all the time. Not necessarily things that went well, but typically all the things that we kind of effed up along the way, right? It's like, here's what we wish we'd have done, we've done differently. Like, take that example, learn from that, and now let me triage in someone from our network who can give you real depth in product or finance or whatever it is you're looking to do. So, those are the two biggest buckets. I think in and around that, there's a bunch of tactical stuff, or the sand, so to speak. So tons of compensation discussions in this market. There's tons of up-leveling, of course. And when those circles cross, when we're triaging that person in and they join a board, or we have those consultants that we engage to help them bring compensation specialization or whatever it might be, that's when we really get flow. And that's when our founders really give us the feedback that, like, that's the work that matters to them too.
Totally. So with that mandate, which is gigantic, like, how does GV evaluate your performance? Like, how do you know if you're doing good in your job?
Yeah, how do I hold myself accountable, right? Well, first and foremost, like everyone at GB, I take the responsibility really very, very seriously. So, I understand this is a really unbelievable opportunity that I get to do every single day, and I couldn't think of doing anything else. So I take that responsibility seriously in terms of, first and foremost, like, we are stewards of our Alphabet's capital. So we want to be very, very respectful of that. We want to deliver exceptional returns. We want to invest in mission-driven founders, and we want to go help create companies that help change the world, right? So that is something that I think we all hold each other, ourselves and each other accountable for. And then secondly, I think that we get to invest in some of the hottest companies in the world, right? Some examples like Synthesia and Harvey and Open Evidence and, Monzo and MIDI and, these companies which really, really matter. So the accountability here is it's really easy to want to make yourself a people pleaser in the role that we're in. That's not what it's about. Sometimes you've got to be straight up a bearer of truth. So if I've got to deliver a difficult piece of feedback because I'm anchored in what's right for the LP, what's right for the company, the founder, and the firm, and lastly, myself, if I have to use some of my own social capital there to deliver a hard message, that's okay. That's okay. I'm going to deliver that, right? So being accountable for delivering difficult messages is a big part of kind of what we do. The coaching and doing are two different exercises as well. So a lot of VC firms do a lot of they'll have very, very large teams. We're a very lean team. So we're under 100 people here at GV for such a large AUM and portfolio size. That's by design, right? So my very small team of 3, we're here to coach them to be the founders that they need to be. And one of the key thing a founder needs to be is for lack of a better term, a chief talent officer. If you think of the best CEOs you've met, and I know you know a ton, they're just exceptional acquirers of talent, right? So, I spend a lot of time just reiterating the importance of the decision you're about to make. And there's examples of companies that have made poor executive hiring decisions and set IPOs back for multiple years, or have had a cultural exodus because of that, right? I'm sure if I asked you if you had companies in mind that fit that mold, you could probably name a couple, right? So, this currency of talent, and this, we're seeing it very publicly in the headlines right now. I don't ever think it's been more important, right? So again, that accountability factor for me is how do I invest time in this founder to make them be better than me at recruiting and help them really go build the world's most high-performing teams?
It's so true, man. And especially right now, the game on the field has changed dramatically. It feels like the skills that used to apply in startups are now changing to what really applies today. So how do you think about those key characteristics specifically for execs? What matters now?
Yeah, I absolutely love this topic. I don't think there's ever been as much value in emotional intelligence, first and foremost. I'm going to start right there. If you think of the world's best CEOs, and again, I think of Shantanu Narayan, I think of Satya at Microsoft, you think of some of those iconic public company CEOs, Sundar at Google, of course, they seemingly have incredible, self-awareness, audience awareness, self-regulation, right? And I think EQ is an understated key characteristic. I think we're so enamored with performance of the past that sometimes we don't look at the how or think about the future, because we're in uncharted waters, right, in this current climate of AI. I think we don't think about A, that battle for executive talent, and B, how important leadership characteristic is. So it starts with emotional intelligence. I then move on to pace setting, I think the examples that founders set start with them. The tone does come from the top. So the way with which they operate, the how in the things that they do, the speed with which they go, their relentlessness, their reiteration of the things that matter has never been more important when things change so fast. So, our founders have to be pace setters, and our most high performers, our most high performing founders are absolute pace setters. Like, it's incredible. Strategic thinking matters, of course. So how do they not only solve the problem of the day, but are they looking around the corner? Are they spending time thinking about what are going to be the things that matter or the moments that matter in that next phase of funding or growth or whatever it might be? And are they strategically thinking about those things at the same time? It's really, really, it sounds obvious. It's difficult for founders. There's so many things going on in any given day. There's so much change in their company and in the macro that they've got to pivot fast. So those that are able to look up and think about the future a little bit, it's really, really important. Density of talent has never been more critical. So like their talent following is something I'm quite obsessed with. So quite often I'll get brought in to help close a C-level candidate at the final hurdle. So founders done an incredible job. They've brought in that head of or that CXO. They're at the final hurdle, and they'll just want to, the candidate might want to have an investors or VC, the firm's lens on why this was an exciting company. And we get through the process, and I'll have an opinion. One of my final questions, I'm probably giving away my secret sauce here a little bit, but I'm happy to share is, hey, Nolan, we hire you tomorrow as a CXO. Who are the first 10 people that are going to light me up to want to come join you? And you learn fast. You instantly get a, hey man, that's the right question. Here are the 10, 20 people that are going to call you immediately. Or you get a pause and let me think about that. And for me, that's a little bit of a flag on the field. So, talent following is just a straight up indicator of how good a leader that you are, right? So that for me is really, really important. There's two more things. I've given you a long answer here, but I love this question. I think communication is a currency of business. Like, how do you take people along when you're setting pace, when you have that velocity? When you're building these teams, how do you really reiterate the things that matter and show people in real time the things that are going? So like just communicating frequently. I think it's the 3 T's, right? Tell them what you told them and tell them again. Employees really want to hear that along the way. And this is where I'll give credit to Mark Laurie at Wonder. I mean, I've seen drafts of messages he sent to his team, and man, if it gets the intern wanting to run through walls, right? Like I read them, like, oh my God, like I'm all in and I'm coming. So I think that's really exceptional kind of leadership. Last point, straight up execution. Like if we don't do anything but execute to what we say we're going to do, then we're going to have a pretty decent year, right? Let alone if we do all the things at the front end. So like execution matters.
Metaview's new AI sourcing agent is incredible. If you've been living under a rock and haven't tried it yet, you are officially behind the times. I've been using it for all of my exec searches, and it totally kicks ass. If you guys sign up in the next 2 weeks, they'll double your seat count for the next 6 months. Go to metaview.ai/sourcing right now so you don't fall behind. So with evaluating those skills, I think is really challenging, but like companies likely lead on you to help evaluate those skills, probably like closer to the back end through references and back channels. How do you handle those sorts of things? And do companies deploy you in that way?
Every single day. Literally this morning, I had an inbound request on that. So look, I think first and foremost, it's okay for us to talk about like back channeling is happening whether you like it or not, right? And again, I think there's a few things with it because it is a mysterious action and activity. Here's what I encourage our founders to look for. If everything's negative, it's a problem. If everything's positive, it's a problem, right? Because leaders are like here to make difficult decisions, right? And not decisions that's great for their popularity, but decisions that's right for the company's future. So that could be, difficult. It could be downsizing organizations. It could be managing performance aggressively, right? It could be behavioral times they've had to let go of people. Like this is why managers and leaders get paid the money that they get paid, right? So, and I think at this moment in time, boards, investors, CEOs, founders are holding teams more accountable for leading. And it's harder than ever before because we're leading through ambiguity and change and velocity in this uncharted era of AI that we're in. So A, it's a privilege to be a leader, but B, you've got to make hard decisions. So we're looking for evidence on both sides of those. There's also something about pattern recognition in the back channeling. So you've almost got to back channel the back channeler at times, so our founders can get maniacal about it in terms of like not doing one or two, but doing 5 to 10, and just sort of seeing what's the pattern recognition we're seeing. So once we get that middle ground of, okay, there's some things here that might cause concern, but might be decisions anchored in making a difficult decision, which leaders have to do. But there's a lot of positivity as well around hiring and being able to do all the things that we've discussed. There's twofold that you look at back channel. It's not necessarily to or to not make a hire. Of course, you're looking to validate your decision here. You're also looking as a good leader to build an onboarding plan. So if I'm getting pattern recognition that maybe that like doing talent development isn't quite your thing, that's okay. That might be okay for me to make a decision to hire you. But what it's telling me is that when you come in, I'm going to be like teaching you that as your leader. I'm going to have a detailed, documented plan to make you be an exceptional developer of talent. Right? If that's the thing that I noticed in the pattern. So it's good for onboarding, it's good for validating a decision, and it absolutely should happen. And I think the last thing I'll do just to tie a bow on it here is, I don't think there's, VC is known for building these relationships, these networks, and making sure we're introducing great people to help our companies grow, right? That's obvious. I think you've got to manage your own brand, Nolan. Like, I think executives spend a lot of time doing their day job, and then their day job ends, and that's kind of it. The long tail of COVID has been, we forgot the power of in-person relationships. And I will tell you, our most fast-scaling companies are absolutely in-person. Some of them are doing the 996 thing, which, by the way, seems to be working, and they're hiring, and it's contagious. There's certainly energy there. It's a controversial stance, but we're seeing a lot of companies go that way, and I kind of get it. But to manage your own career and get access to opportunities, the more people the luckier you kind of get.
So I think when people talk about brand, because I have a lot of friends who ask me about this, and they're like, oh, I think I need to like spend more time on LinkedIn. And I'm like, that's not it. Like, that's not what brand is. Like, for me, what it is building relationships that are truly authentic. And it's also just not inside of the company. And so like, how are you interacting, of course, inside the company, but also outside of the company? Do you have the phone a friend thing? Like, will people pick up when you call? What do you mean when you say brand and executives managing it?
I will do the activity that others won't, and that is that, like, if I need to drive like 90 minutes to go and have a coffee with an executive in person rather than do a Zoom, I'm sending a message to that executive that this potential relationship is way more important to me than a 20-minute like video call. I do those things all the time. I will jump on a plane and grab dinner with an executive to get that relationship. And there's numerous examples of where, personally, I've done that action, and I do this weekly, where I'll go do that. And the outcome of that is like that person becomes an ambassador for the firm. Like, I wear our logo so proudly. I wave the flag of our unbelievable portfolio of companies and our founders. But then I'm force multiplying that messaging out there in with the executives that are like, let me tell you how this person found me, right? So as an executive, like, sometimes people, they don't want to go and attend the dinner on a Thursday night and leave their family. I get it. Like, I don't want to be doing it every Thursday, but for sure I'm going to do it with frequency so I can make sure that I'm, again, earning the right to have these humans on speed dial and bring them into the firm. And at the end of the day, like, create opportunity for them, right? So, you've got those friends, right? Half of them that are doing the day job and then doing whatever is interesting for them outside of that, and others that are doing their day job and investing a little bit more time in like being at the conference, going to the dinner, going to the getting on the plane and taking the meeting that is going to like give them benefit in their future, whether it's a customer, a hire, or a new opportunity for them. I think it's like really important, and I don't see a ton of executives and talent in general like investing in that. It's a really good way to manage your own career.
I agree. There's a ton of alpha there. So one of the age-old questions is, do we promote from within or do we hire on the outside? We're talking about execs right now. How do you, like, when a founder comes to you on this topic, like, how do you advise them?
Love it. So the first question is, the first statement rather is, hiring should always be your last resort. Like, the two biggest expenses in a company are typically, hiring and real estate. You could probably add, compute in there these days, but definitely like hiring and is a really important decision. And I think that hiring leaders can sometimes make hiring decisions as if it weren't their own money, and not put the rigor and the time and the effort and the exhausting all channels of search to make sure that they're getting the very, very, very best person that not only does the job that they want, but like lifts the team as well at the same time. So, I think the first question really is like, is this the solution? Like, what is the core of the problem? I've actually talked founders out of hiring, multiple times when it hasn't been a hiring issue. It's actually been avoiding a difficult conversation. It's actually been a performance management decision. That's number one. Number two question is, I'm a big fan of mobility. Like, I love ascension. I love giving up and comers a new opportunity. Like, is there someone that would love to take a stretch opportunity? They're not getting the job, but can we sit them in that seat for like 90 days or 120 days or 180 days to see actually how they go and see the outcomes? Like, if we give people those outcomes, B, it's highly retentive. So people love, again, we don't speak about it out there because it's always comp that's related to retention, but like learning is also intimately tied to retention, right? So if I can give someone an opportunity, A, I've got a better opportunity to retain top performers. And B, I may not have to go external and spend a ton of money and then hope that in a year, the quality of that hire actually plays out. So again, is hiring the answer? Is there a stretch opportunity for someone? Are like the two most important questions. If those questions are answered sufficiently, then yeah, like let's go out there, let's calibrate, let's make sure you know what excellent looks like. Let's get you the right search partner, and let's go close the very best human out there.
Yeah, it's so well said. I mean, that's like the story of my career, which is people bet on me before I was ready, and then gave me usually external resources to learn from, and then it was just a candid conversation, which is just like, hey, this is what's going well, this is what's not, and here's where you're at. And for me, whenever I got those opportunities, those are the moments that I think about and the people I think about that I'm forever grateful for.
Yeah.
Because without it, I don't know what happens in my career. And I also don't know if somebody does get hired in, they don't have the institutional knowledge. They don't have the relationships built. They don't know where the dead bodies are buried. For me to for them to come in and solve the problems in the best way possible, oftentimes you do need like all of that additional context in the company.
I've heard founders like once or twice share advice with me that they've been given, which is, hey, I hear when you hire your first head of, it's okay for them to flame out in a year. I'm like, no. Like, I mean, for me, that's just like, hey, like, it's not just, they say the cost of a bad hire is 5x salary, but it's way worse than that. It's cost of culture, it's cost to customer, it's cost to brand, product roadmap, like whatever the role is. But like, that is like, for me, really, really terrible advice, right? I think that, not only do we have to promote from within, I really, really love that activity and hire the very best leaders. We've also got to teach people how to be good leaders. We sometimes promote people and go, hey, Nolan, you're the new leader. Congrats. I'll see you in a year. And then a year comes around. We're like, hey, it went okay. Like, could someone not like tell me or like let me know on the way? And it was a really interesting thing we did at Adobe. We were one of the first companies to abolish the annual performance review and move to like a regular check-in process. And I'm such an advocate of that, like feedback on the fly, encouraging a culture of peer-to-peer feedback, like having leaders being able to ask questions vulnerably, demonstrating that at the top back to pace setting is like really, really important. So I think hiring, ascension and promoting, and then enabling leaders, particularly in earlier stage company, is just so, so, so important. And again, I will say our most high growth portfolio companies here are maniacal on making sure that people are successful, that they have opportunity to grow and scale. And we're massive endorsers of that. We're promoting that all day long.
100%. In our prep call, you had this like passing comment, which you said, as soon as you open a rec, you're already late. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
I love it. So whenever someone's like, hey, you said this thing, I'm like, oh, what did I say? What did I say? I 100% believe that. So everybody, the point I'm making here is that when you get to all those things, you've asked the question of, do I really need to hire this person? Is this a mobile internal hire? Can I offer a stretch opportunity for a high performer? Once you're at the hiring point there, utopia is, Nolan, that you should already have in your mind a list of 7 out of 10 people that you already know, have a relationship with, and think could come and do this role. Whether they want to or not, it's a different story. We've got to go find out. But like, you should already have in your own head a calibration. Typically, it's like, all right, I got to go hire. I got to speak to someone like me or my internal recruiter or that, and then I've got to spend 9 months going there. Now, this comes back to the power of network, right? So again, the very best CEOs and founders in our portfolio, if I call them, which I do all the time, and say, hey, I know you're not hiring. I just met a head of product or a head of Eng or a finance person or whatever it might be. You have to know them. You don't need them now. They will meet them that day or that week. They will definitely take time out of their calendar to priority meet that talent. I've met with other founders who are like, I'm not hiring. I'm like, let's talk about why this is important, because when we had the discussion around future horizons, you said that we wanted to be here. This person could help us get there. And that is when the sort of light bulb switch on a little bit, right? So again, I've learned this through my two previous companies, just the structured time of meeting potential future hires proactively, so that when you open the rec, open the position there, you are ready to go. And again, they may not be the right person, but at least you know what you're looking for up front. It is like absolutely exceptional in my opinion, leadership behavior.
Yeah, the thing I love about it is number one is expanding your surface area of luck, right? So I think oftentimes like founders get into this mode where it's like, I'm in recruiting mode, I want to hire you. And they skip to like, you skip all the relationship stuff. Sometimes like timing isn't right. Ali Benham once said to me, executives are like flowers in the spring. They come out for a little while and then they go away for a very long time.
Yeah.
And so that timing window has to be like perfectly right.
Yeah.
But you can kind of expand that window if you have a relationship with somebody such that they're thinking about you, not in just terms of like, I must go work there. That's the only relationship I'll ever have with this person. But like, we're helping each other. We talk to each other. We're friends. It's so much more than come work for me as a W-2.
I love your metaphors there, and it's like you're doing two things, right? Because you know, as someone who's so good at this, it's like there's two things that matter: winning the heart and winning the mind, right? So if I'm like maintaining a relationship with you 2 to 3 years before I need you, you're instinctively understanding that like I care about this relationship for the future. Now, I'm earning the right to say no. I don't know if I want to hire you because we've never had that relationship, but I've at least, hopefully won the heart enough through relationship building that earns me the right to win the mind, right? So when I'm like, hey, Nolan, the time's right now, you'll at least take a first call and then decide if it's worth pursuing, but at least it gives me the right to put you in that pipeline as opposed to starting from scratch. And look, I don't think, again, we got a good end set of companies here, 400 plus companies. And the amount of like executive hiring I've seen has never been higher. All our friends in search are like, capped out, as and are hiring more recruiters to try and service the needs. So the indicators are there. So if I'm a founder and a CEO, I'm actually talking to my direct reports and saying, this is part of your role. We need to know who we want to hire long before we need them to give us the right to say no or yes when we do need them.
So another one of my favorite Rhys takes recently is that you think time to fill is one of the most overrated metrics. Why?
I think it's the worst. It's such a recruiting metric. And why do we have metrics, right? To motivate behavior. And I don't think the metric motivates the right behavior, right? So I think us in recruiting, and I've been there, you part of your brand is like, I can fill a role in less than 90 days or 60 days. So speed is kind of like the piece of my brand that I want to be known for. And I think time to fill is actually taking away from the metric that does matter, which is quality of hire. So, you can influence the hire, right? Because you have this privilege of influencing a leader. So, I'm sure we're all well-intended, but if I'm trying to go to get this person in under 60 days, which is kind of like a very typical number within time to fill, if that's my metric, then I might be like influencing for my metric, not for what's right for the company, right? So the quality of hire or the lagging indicator or stickiness, as some people call it, for me, that's more meaningful, right? It makes you think differently. And that is like, the metric might be, what happened to that human after 12 months? Did they quit? Right? Did they get promoted? Did they move laterally? As they do their employee engagement score, are they super, super engaged? Like, what are we learning about them, right? So, a recruiter or a talent partner might argue like, you can't influence that. But in many ways, you're paying more attention to the kickoff meeting. You're really making sure it's anchored before you go out to market. You are having deeper scrutiny in the interview process and driving it with paranoia. And then you're influencing the decision for the right reasons, not for the case of speed. So I think quality of hire trumps speed, time to fill every day of the week. The other thing that I think we spoke about as well was I'm a big believer in like diverse sourcing channels. So quite often like recruiters will hit a number based upon like employee referrals, So it's like, yeah, if you fill 10 to 12 recs in this market, you're a pretty good recruiter. If 11 of them are employee referrals, then all right, we might have a bit of a bias for similarity here, right? Or path of least resistance or time to fill. So really ensuring like for such an expensive decision, like no stone is left unturned, no channel is ignored to get the absolute most like incredible person to come, join this journey with us.
It does need to be pushed from the top though. Like one of the things we used to say at DoorDash, which came from Tony, was we want this person to start yesterday. but we will wait as long as it takes to find the right person. Because hiring managers, like they always, they have that burning need and that hole, and typically the work is falling on them. And so they're going to try and just like time pressure. I want somebody in here. But like, that's where I think the checks and balances in hiring are super important. And when CEOs specifically are doing like things like offer review, that really changes behavior and drills it into the organization.
Yeah. I mean, a red flag is when you see executives and founders outsource the hire. They're like, yeah, I'm going to have my chief of staff, or I'm like, nope, we're not kicking this off. Like that's where I'll have to have some difficult conversations. I'll explain the why and the importance. But like, if you're not willing to put the time and effort in personally as a CEO or CXO or whatever the position it is, then this is not important. This is not P0. And like, we don't need this person in seat I have a strong opinion on it. I think it's really important that, CEOs pre-IPO and public, quite frankly, are super hands-on in the hire that they're making.
100%. All right. So last topic is like this market right now is wild. I was just talking to my friend Matt Stevenson about this, who's at Bain yesterday. We're both seeing like just crazy comp numbers.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on here?
It's wild. It's like you said it perfectly, right? It's really, really wild. I mean, I have friends in compensation. I feel bad for them. I just don't know how there's data and reality, right? So, and it depends what you want to believe. It's really, really difficult because certain roles have a premium, like research engineers and forward deployed engineers right now. And, like executives, VP hiring, there's premium, let alone if you take the premium of like vertical AI or like, some hot spaces in life sciences, which we have the privilege to participate. So there are certain times when like major exceptions have to be made. I get really sensitive when I see companies, and sometimes this is coming back to the point of like winning the heart first or not, like you're already late when you open the rec. As I said, I think if you're winning the heart there, you're actually putting yourself in a better position to have a more reasonable compensation discussion because they have value and they've built equity in the relationship with you. So, when I see the headlines and the escalation of the talent war, which we're seeing, and it becomes a straight up battle for comp, I do get nervous about, coming for money, leaving for money. I think it's an actual thing. I think at times exceptions need to be made for the most exceptional humans out there, of course. But, if you have a culture that is all about the compensation you're making, that goes viral internally. So other engineers or executives are seeing the headlines and, the conga line at the door starts about reviewing their compensation discussion. I think having transparency around comp is really, really important. Like, this is what you're going to start at. This is going to be the equity. We're going to review this on X basis, and we're going to have those discussions. A lot of founders, well-intended, make an offer, and then, of course, valuations increase and grants get bigger, and therefore their friends who are coming in 2 years after them are having bigger, whatever it might be, and it gets a bit difficult, and churn starts happening. You see that at the 100-person, like later, like B and C sort of stage. I think that can be avoided. Back to a previous point around just having transparency and communication, but it is wild. It's so fun to watch. We're going to see how it plays out. I think we'll normalize a little bit as the market sort of matures in the space that we're in. But at the same time, you've got to make exceptions at times, and I'm an advocate of breaking the rules when you need to, for sure.
Yeah, my take is like I feel like actually the market clearing price right now is the most real it's been because there is so much transparency into what people are paying at other companies. Like we have so much free flow of communication. And the other thing too is like, if the analog is professional sports teams, right? Like the best athletes are driving the wins. And I think that is true in tech companies too. You definitely still need the team, but like the best athletes are paid disproportionately more. And I think we're finally starting to really see that in tech beyond just the C-level execs.
Yeah, I mean, you raised the sporting analogy. I was going to do it earlier on, I'm glad you led it there. But I mean, there's so many examples of like ridiculous leadership, great recruiting, dealing with adversity. There's a ton of comparisons there. I'm a big soccer fan. I see your Niners helmet back there, but I'm a Niners fan. But I am a big soccer fan, and I forget who said the saying, but it's like soccer's a really simple game. It's the players that make it difficult. So it's like, again, coming back to leadership, communication, execution, navigating through ambiguity and dealing with adversity. These are the things that I think talent partners have the privilege of doing, and certainly I feel very privileged to do every day.
Rhys, this was a blast, man. Thanks for making it happen.
So good to see you, man. Thanks for the opportunity.